Hey, what's up, guys? I hope everything is going well. Welcome back to Roche Kilian Uncut, the podcast where we do not cut what we say, we just talk. Well, at the moment, it's just me that's talking, but I will eventually have some guest speakers on here as well. But for now, I am just explaining and talking, and hopefully you can listen to this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, if you're listening to it on any other platform, enjoy. So today I am talking about my favorite books, right? Now, I'm not going to necessarily do them in any specific order. I'm literally going to pick them from the top because all of them are kind of my favorite. I'm just going to go through a few books that I read, and I wanted to explain to you how important it is. Let's start from the beginning, I would say. And when I was 24, I've never read a book. Up until the age of 24. Never in my life. Not even in school. Maybe listened to in school when we had to read a book. Obviously we do the book, but everyone reads it. I would never read it and potentially also not get the marks that I was supposed to in school. But yeah, it was just a thing. I think maybe it was ego or it wasn't cool to read a book. That's what people nowadays, and it's funny because now I'm preaching it, but there's no such thing as nerds and people that are reading books and people that are, studying hard. They're not losers. They are actually the smart people. And unfortunately, the jock of the school, thought it was boring. Who wants to play chess? But now I find myself playing chess on my phone. I play chess, with mates sometimes, or with my fiance's father. It's fun. It helps you stimulate your mind. You You don't stink. You think strategic ways, in advance, and it's really. It just helps with your logic, and it's just beautiful, right? It's a good thing to do. So the same with books. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you've never read a book before, the same way I haven't, whether you're 16 years old or if you are 50 years old, I am encouraging you to do exactly that. Reading a book is... It was funny because why I wanted to read the book? I was on my way to England. It was my first trip ever overseas, and I got a book which I don't have here, unfortunately. I gave it away because that's what you do with books sometimes. You give them away so that other people can find the value in them as well. But this book was called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And, I just took the book. I thought, oh, that's a cool title. Let's just see what that is. And it was a self-help book. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's do that. And my main purpose was to read the book, and if there was any words that I don't understand, I think on the first chapter I found a word that was elude, elusive. And I honestly didn't know because I'm Afrikaans and I wanted to better my English. So I wrote it down. I would, look in the dictionary, and then I would see the word. And that'll basically help me with my English. Because as I went on, I kind of started doing the whole word and dictionary thing less, but got into the story and got into reading and got into the message of this book. And when I was done, I couldn't believe the way that I felt, the knowledge that I've consumed, and the fact that in this guy's life, because it's an older man that had a heart attack, and he decided to sell everything. He was top of the rank lawyer in New York City, basically just a legend, and he got a heart attack, and his life flashed before his eyes, and he realized he wants to become a monk. For some odd reason. I mean, it's a long story, but the point is that that person's life, right? All the knowledge in that book, it takes someone's expertise and 50 years of knowledge, maybe, 60 years of knowledge, maybe 100 years of research and knowledge to put in that book. And I literally read that book in 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks, I finished that book, and I had all that knowledge just bubbling inside me. I couldn't understand what the hell. I mean, that literally helped my speech, my English. I mean, I still make mistakes now and then, to be honest, but it helped a lot. And when you approach someone, you kind of understand what they're now saying because you read this book that is kind of about that, or you have a topic that you speak to. And obviously, then you read another book. So the next book I got was The Alchemist. This was the next book that I got. Dreams are made to be followed. Life is meant to be lived. Some books are meant to be read, loved, and passed on. The Alchemist is one of those books. That is literally a book that I it was a storybook, which I didn't want to read because storybooks are not necessarily. I'd never wanted to do novels, but again, this is a storybook, but kind of self-help as well, self-help book as well, because that's kind of what I read, non-fiction. Not that I have any issues with fictional books, but it's just I want to learn something. I want to get knowledge from these books. So The Alchemist was the second book that I read, and this was incredible. Now I'm giving you these books to give you an ideas of which, if you haven't read any, these are the books that you need to read. Or if you've read multiple books before, but you don't know which ones to read next, and you haven't read these, then I will obviously tell you about them. So, The Alchemist basically is a book about a shepherd boy, and he, travels, or he wants to find a pot of gold. He wants to find, an alchemist obviously conjures up like water or whatever, but in this case, conjured up gold. So he wanted to find the alchemist so that he can make gold for him. Like any of us, our dreams. But I don't want to spoil the book for you, but the point is he goes on this journey to find the alchemist, and through his life, he encounters a lot of obstacles, a lot of patience that needs to be had. Like it's his whole life, and it reminded me of mine so much, and I think it would remind you of yours as well, because I think every single person goes through this. That's why the book is so beautiful. But it's a beautiful book. I'm not going to tell you what it is about completely, but it's basically a fable about following your dreams. All right. Then the second book, this is a brilliant book. And the funny thing is, my mother actually gave me this book when I was 14. It was a bigger book, and it was just there. I didn't even look at it once, but then I saw it again, and I had to buy it. And I read this within a week because it was so good. So this is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now you'd think that how to win friends and influence people, like you taking control of them or how to manipulate them. That's not what this book is about. And that's what you learn from books. Because to be honest, one of the main things that I can take from that is, even if you win let's say an argument, or maybe you have, an argument is probably the best example. If you win an argument, you never always win. I'm not saying that you should lose to win, but if you win an argument in the wrong way, then technically you lose, because that person that you beat will never respect you, will never like you because of the way that you won that argument. All right. So it basically tells you on how to, respect people, and how to sometimes, swallow your pride and not be wrong, but let them be right, so that you can basically not use them, but you can gain their trust and respect in the future. And there's all sorts of things. I mean, to be honest, I haven't read this in 2 years now, because I'm obviously reading more books, but this is a beautiful read. So I would definitely recommend that you do that one. This book I've read 3 times. Who Moved My Cheese? I read this book 3 times already. And to be honest, it's a 70-page book. So you can read this within 45 minutes to an hour. And it's a story about change. Cheese being the thing that you are maybe struggling with. Maybe a job that you want to change, or maybe the job has changed. You got fired, or maybe you lost, your girlfriend broke up with you, or potentially you gained weight, or anything that in your life that you're going through now that you want to change, or that has changed. This is the book for you. It literally explains every single thing on how to cope with change, and how change is actually inevitable everywhere you go, and to always be prepared for change. So that's really important. I'm not going to go into too much depth with that little book, but go get it. Then this one, obviously now I started getting confidence. I started speaking to people, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, because now I know things, right? Now I know a few things. But then I wanted to help with my speaking on YouTube, public speaking, doing these type of chats. So I got the Art of Public Speaking. All right, The Art of Public Speaking. And this is an interesting book, and it doesn't even have to do with like YouTube and stuff. This is really, when you speak to people, how to captivate them, and how to use pauses, and how to raise your voice when you have something good to say, and if it's something that's very important. Or maybe if you really think about it. sometimes that can make a difference. Now, I'm not too hectic into that. I mean, we're talking about big stage speaking. For me, YouTube, obviously, I just want to get, not word vomit, but I want to try and get as much information out there as possible. But yeah, it speaks about how to speak, and it also talks about this one thing, which is, I feel, very important. And that's why I also relate back and told you that my podcast, I want to talk about mental health, nutrition, and fitness, because, and obviously this is part of mental health, because this is going to help you mentally, right? Is the fact of that book is, they say, if you do not know what you're talking about, you can study as long as you want, you will not have the confidence to speak in front of thousands and thousands and millions of people. But if you actually are an expert in your field, if you know what you're talking about, if you're talking about, let's say you're an accountant for 17 years, then obviously that is the thing that you're going to be good at. And that's the thing that you're going to be able to speak about with confidence. No one's going to really ask you a trick question. You're just going to know all the things, and you'll just be speaking and speaking and speaking. So it's the same way with me, with fitness and nutrition and, with mental health, because I've gone through all those things and I can help. And that's why I'm giving some advice. And with books, I've read these, so I can confidently tell you that they are really good. The next one, second last one, is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. All right? This is a beautiful book, and I have been implementing this in my life very much lately, and not necessarily not giving a fuck. It's just the point that I don't necessarily care about what people think, because no one really gives a fuck about you anyway. All right, they are actually carrying on with their own lives. They have their own things to do. Like, yes, we always care about people, right? But it's a quick care, and then you move on because you've got shit to do. So that is very important to know. But another thing from that book that I've obviously gotten as well is, no matter what happens to you, whether someone, treated you a certain way, or maybe something didn't work out for you, or whatever it is, you can't blame anyone else. Zero. Because I'm telling you, no one gives a fuck, and you're not gonna be this victim and and then they're gonna help you. No one gives a fuck. So you need to take responsibility. Even if it is not your fault, you need to take responsibility. And that is something that you can learn from that book. Mark Manson, really good book. Give it a shout. And then the last and final book. This was actually a gift from a friend, a Brazilian roommate of mine. She was absolutely amazing, and she gave me this book to read because I didn't have a book available at that moment, and she said this would be good, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And I must say, the first 2-3 pages was very difficult. It's a very difficult read, right? Because it's called mindset. It's literally changing the way you think to fulfill your potential. So you have to be engaged in this book. It's not just a fun read, and you kind of have to take this information in. So what it is mainly about, to give you a brief little quick one, is about 2 mindsets. One is a fixed mindset, and one is a growth mindset. So it obviously tells you and explains exactly what a fixed mindset is, and then it tells you exactly what a growth mindset is. And once you know the difference, the book becomes so easy, because everything that they say in reference to, you clearly know which one it is. Oh, they're referencing the fixed mindset, or they'll tell you it's a fixed mindset, and you'll just know why. And the same with a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset is the mindset that you want to be in. You don't want to have a fixed mindset where people tell you, for instance, you can't swim from a young age, and you just believe that is impossible because you were born in Egypt and you can't swim. That's what people say, and that's what you believe, and it's fixed, and no one's going to change my mind. That is what I believe. Where the growth mindset guy was going to come and say, I mean, I'm using weird countries and things. Don't hold me to these things. But what I'm saying is, he'll come and say, oh, you're a kid from Egypt. Okay, cool. Let me teach you how to swim. And he'll be like, no, I don't. Let me teach you. I can promise you, you can learn to swim. And then the kid obviously learns to swim, because anything in life is possible if you believe it, and if you work towards it, and if you are open-minded to the fact that you can learn. Even if you are 65 years old, you can learn a new subject, you can learn new things. Like, you can literally teach an old dog new tricks. They've proven that. All right, so those are the few books that I have. I hope this podcast really helps you. Of course, if you listened in, I hope you made notes of what I was saying. And of course, if you are watching, then you could have screen grabbed, or you can just watch this video again and have a look at those books. But I do appreciate everyone tuning into the podcast. like I said, it will get better with time when it comes to guest speakers coming in. So it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, if you like this podcast, like it, subscribe, and if you want to watch my daily vlogs, where there are also valuable information coming through every single day, not just me cooking eggs, but I always try and leave a little message in there as well. So please like and subscribe to that, and I will see you in the next podcast. Cheers.